Welcome, folks. So today's topic is harnessing the power of possibilities for farmers markets in turbulent times. And I'm going to play this video. See this? Hold on one second. You can't hear the sound, right?
No
Work
sound.
this time. I'm gonna try one more time. Can you hear?
Farmers markets are among the oldest institutions in human history. For thousands of years, they have facilitated commerce and community between town and country. By enabling farmers to sell the fruits of their labor directly to shoppers. Today, new leaders are reinventing this ancient concept and introducing new measures of success to meet new challenges. Food access, behavior change, and business incubation. Successful 21st century farmers markets provide farmers with initial points of distribution. Consumers gain access to fresh, healthy, and local foods directly from the people who harvest them. And the town centers gain safe, animated public spaces for all to enjoy. When these three components come together, everyone wins. Farmers, consumers, and communities. But there's more. With so many people losing faith in society, farmers markets build trust and bring transparency back to the food system. To learn more about the World Farmers Market Coalition, log on to www.worldfarmersmarketcoalition.org. To get involved, visit your market. Chances are there is one near you. And if there isn't, let's change that.
Yay, it worked. My name is Robin Moon. I know a lot of you know me, and I know a lot of you. The headquarters of World Farmers Markets Coalition. Today, we're going to change up our format a little bit. This is sort of an experiment to have all of you join the conversation to allow more time for you to do that. Because every month it's just always very difficult to, have speakers or panelists talk and then hear what you have to say. So this really allows us more time. And also, there's a lot going on in the world. I am an American. I'm sitting in New York City, but I'm not just talking about my country, but everywhere. And in fact, a lot of things have been going on for a long time, and we thought that this might be time to really focus, come together as a community and maybe understand a little better what really is going on in your neck of woods and remind ourselves we have this community. The video reminds me, in the time that we lose faith in our society, we have our community, and that's what we're doing here. That is our mission. For a reason, World Farmers Markets Coalition exists. So let's see how we do today. Welcome again for those who are here. I'm very happy to see you. A quick community agreement. We are here for a very precious hour of your time. Let's be present and be engaged with all the conversations that are happening here today. And let's welcome and honor different and multiple viewpoints that is bound to happen because we represent the world. And we are going to have disagreements, and it will be not normal for us to not to have disagreements, but we are going to hold our judgments and disagreements softly, and we will ask questions to understand, and we will listen to learn better. We will trust the intent of the person talking, but also acknowledge the impact that it might, positive or not so positive impact that might have on you as they land on you. We will make space for others to speak up. we will also take space for ourselves if it's necessary, if it's time, and really to honor everybody's equitable opportunities to speak. We will talk in sentences and not in paragraphs. And this is not in the community agreements, but we will focus on what we have, our assets, not deficit. Okay, that is the ground rule for today. So we are going to acknowledge our collective and global turbulent and critical times. Again, this has always been going on. It feels a little more deeply seated, and it feels like we're sort of in this for a longer haul. And all the things that are happening are somehow related in the world. So we're going to acknowledge that together. And we want to hear from each of you from wherever you sit, what's going on in your place. We will discuss, remind ourselves the farmers market's role in our community. What does this conversation have anything to do with farmers market? We're going to learn that. We're going to remind ourselves of that. And we will focus our intention to practice hope and reimagine possibilities. I say practice hope because I've been saying this to my other work and other colleagues and friends. Hope is as a verb. It's not a feeling. It's a decision that I make. It's a form of practice to grow my capacity to hope. Because what's so challenging about having hope when everything is going really well, right? And reimagine the possibilities. What can we make out of all this as our being farmers markets possibilities? Just to set the tone of the conversation, I wanted to really quickly introduce to you Nobel laureate Amartya Sen. He is still alive. He received the Nobel Prize in economics in 1998. He's an Indian economist, a very prominent figure who studied famines, poverty, and development, as in human, not just economic and social, but human development, at the turn of the World War II and, like colonialism, post-colonialism, time. And he said, famines are often more a result of problems with food distribution rather than a simple lack of food overall. What does that mean? Even when there is enough food available, does that sound familiar? That happens today too. We have food waste even. Certain groups may not have the means to access it due to unequal distribution systems, economic factors, and social inequalities. He also, for the Bengal famine, that's current day Bangladesh, that famous famine that really jolted the world and some, big monies to invest in the green revolution, which, like, let's look at where we are with that. Sen argued that the famine was not solely caused by a lack of, so, he goes on saying the, um, the distribution system that prevented many people from accessing available food supplies due to factors like price hikes and limited access to markets. There was a recent article in the conversation by iPest Food that I shared with some of you in some of the our group chat somewhere, and I am sure a lot of you have seen it, but Manuel is dropping the link to that article. It talks about the same idea. And this is, imagine this is from 1940s, I mean, before Irish famine too, that's way before that. And 100 years later, we're still experiencing that. What does that have to do with farmers market? So this is a quote, one of many quotes by Sen, Dr. Sen. No substantial famine has ever occurred in any independent and democratic country with a relatively free press. One more quick thing about what Sen has studied. Poverty is a lack of freedom. It's a lack of basic capabilities and development. And we're talking about not just social and economic reforms, which are incredibly important and critical, necessary, but it's more than it's more than increasing income. It's more than doing social and economic reforms, but it's also human development, people's capabilities. And I put this slide just to remind all of us and the World Farmers Market Coalition that this is part of our mission. I'm not saying necessarily Amartya Sen, alone has inspired us, but we believe in developing capacities of our community and our farmers markets and all of you, farmers markets operators and friends. And a lot of our projects already reflect that. And that might sound a little antithetical to, you know, what we hear about scaling up, globalization, and things like that. We're talking about hyperlocal and substitute imports. There was an article that our president wrote in our newsletter just a couple of days ago. Manuel will also drop the link to that just for your easy access. I know you all have it. So this is the thesis, if you will, that I wanted to frame our conversation. I really, really need to hear from all of you, all of the positive and possibilities that we have, the opportunities we want to talk about together. Farmers market is a community asset. So we are an asset to our community. There's an economic opportunity and value that farmers markets bring. There's social connection and safety that we have brought and we bring, that we have evidence from the past. And I might call on some of you to talk about that, to remind ourselves what we mean to our community, what role we have in our community. And there's an environmental value. We can go on just on this, right? And our farmers markets role in community health. And role in building community resilience, the dirty word resilience, but we have it. I want us to remind ourselves of these things. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing screen. Somebody put me on spotlight. Thanks, Manuel. And there's Richard. Hi, you made it.
Good.
Let's start with anybody have any comment and tell us what's going on in your community that has to be related to the farmers market, your work and your experience with the farmers market in your community, and what's going on as a context that makes it either challenging or that offers you an opportunity. I think I'm actually going to remove spotlight so we can see everybody. Again, I said at the beginning, this is an experiment. We really would like to offer more time for us to have a conversation. We'll see how this goes. Please know that this was a strategic decision, not lack of preparation. Janet, hello.
Hello there.
The UK.
Yes, I can put something in on this. It's an opportunity, isn't it?
Yes.
Like me
Yes.
to go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So we have recently launched our farmers market accreditation. Literally, it's come through from FRA via Sandra, who's done all the work behind it, and I think she is on somewhere.
Sandra also dropped a comment. I will read this after you, Janet.
Yeah. Okay. So we've launched our farmers market accreditation for the Real Farmers Market scheme, and this is designed to help the public identify true farmers markets. And we're inviting all our members in the UK, that is, to apply for the accreditation, which will join a network that boosts the reputation, attracts more customers, and supports the local food economy. We've certainly successfully run it in past. It has lapsed over the last few years, so it's quite a step for us to have moved forward again with it. And that's an opportunity, both environmental and economic, supports the local communities where we're all based, and we're quite pleased with that. So let's watch this space and see how it goes.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Janet. I already feel better. Thank you. Congratulations. And I see Sarah's hand. 1 second, Sarah. I want to just honor what Sandra has dropped. In the UK farmers markets, in the UK, farmers markets are seen as a community asset. Yay. But local authorities are introducing so many restrictions around car parking changes. Oh, does that sound familiar to other people?
Yeah.
Charges, yes. I'm gonna come back to this, Sandra, but hi, Sarah from Australia.
Hi everyone, I'm actually in Brisbane today, which is near the Gold Coast. We've had a challenge, but it's actually turning into something really positive around access to abattoirs for small to medium beef producers. With the international conglomerates buying our local meatworks, they've turned around and put numbers on them, like where you might take 3 head of beef cattle to be processed, they want them to take a minimum of 15 head of beef and 50 head of sheep, which isn't sustainable, and we don't have refrigeration. So we've been working with new partners to explore options for support. And we've actually been able to connect with departments of ag, mainstream farming, beef, representative groups and things. And it's enabled us to actually learn that, yes, we're farmers markets, but we actually have a role to play in just sharing our value. And the fact is that as farmers markets, we are at the front line of protecting industry, connection to consumer and reputation. And a number of these large organisations, which our farmers pay levies, or what do you call it, industry commodity fees, to, that we are entitled to connect and ask for help. So we've been working with big state, which might be, I suppose, county type groups. And our local government association in Victoria has made contact to tell us that they're going to support us. And it's the first time. So we're working hard, and Tim's doing an amazing job, but we're also seeing some positives come out of something that we're still working on that could be negative.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So you're saying the local government is in support of you, and that's a huge,
Yes.
yeah. Can I ask you a follow-up question? If you are, this is an unfair question. If you can name one thing, the one thing that motivates your local government to support you, how did you work it? What is it?
Circular economy.
Circular economy. So you're saying
So,
you make the argument of the circular economy.
yeah, they are worried that if we don't have thriving markets without protein, a farmer's market is a challenge. They won't get the people into town, because when people come to farmers markets in our smaller country towns, they stay for a couple of hours and might have lunch at a restaurant or do the rest of their groceries and services shopping. And without us attracting people to the town or attracting the locals out for the day, the other businesses that are around the area will suffer.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for the optimistic, encouraging news. Sandra, do you want to speak a little more about what you dropped in the chat? And the parking charges, I think that we also saw just recently in Kenya, but I know it's not just in Kenya. Like it's to begin with, it's next to impossible to find a place that a farmer's market doesn't have to pay rent. And added to this is the parking charges. Sandra, are you here? Oh, she cannot unmute. Okay, so I will take that spotlight off her. Anybody else have a comment about this? This is an ongoing, I am sure, dilemma or problem that you are dealing with where you are.
I think I've worked it out. Sandra.
Hi, Sandra. When there's a will.
Yeah. So I run a couple of farmers markets. One's in a high street, and one's actually in a car park. So the high street is a road closure, So I pay to close the road so the farmers market is within a certain area. And the local authority, so I paid the county council for the road closure, but the local authority is imposing parking charges. So the public are having to pay to park on a Sunday when the farmers market's taking place. But we also don't have anywhere now for the stallholders to park, because there's limited amount of time, maximum stay of 4 hours, anyone paying to park in that car park. And another farmers market I run is actually in a council car park, where the mayor of that particular borough had signed a contract that we could run the farmers market using that car park for free. And then last Monday, I received an email to say that charges will start on a Sunday and we have to pay to use that car park, but I have legal costs and surveyors costs for the car park as well. It's really difficult when the farmers market's really popular with the local people, and it's knowing what the right thing is to do, really. That's me. Thank you.
I wonder if there are opportunities to do some kind of an economic analysis to see before and after the gross income at the farmers market, which means like, the income of the farmers, how much it has gone down since from the time that parking is charged, and if it means anything to your local authority. Because it can be, parking charges are probably not just parking charges. It's that's a political statement. So those are some thoughts that I have. Any other pressing challenges that's at your farmers markets level, or where you reside?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, it would be interesting to hear actually from someone in the room who has enjoyed a healthy collaboration with local authorities. I read about some markets I think it was in California, where local authorities would allow the markets to happen without permits, and wouldn't charge for access. And I wonder if there are other examples, and how is this happening, that local authorities are actually welcoming and collaborating with market organizers? Would that have to be an NGO, or would that be any market? In Moldova, the concept of farmers market does not exist in any national policies or legislation. There are food markets, and they just think that the farmers market is the same. So we have no support from authorities whatsoever. But that's not my question at the moment. My question is can anybody share examples of working with local authorities so that there is easy access and everybody benefits?
Tamara, you are our new member, by the way. Welcome. Thank you for being here from Moldova. Examples of working with local authorities in critical times or not. Does anybody have examples you want to share with our Moldova member?
Sure, there must be one.
Do you know, are you friendly with, or do you know the players at your local government? That's a question for you, Tamara.
Yes, we know them. We know, because Moldova is such a small country, we have all the ministers coming and shopping at our market because it is the only farmers market. And we kind of have good, rapport with individuals, but when it comes to policies and, changes like taxes or fees, they weren't imposing anything at the beginning, and then they realized that this is a very successful something, so they added some taxes to our growers. um, so yeah, we know people, but we don't have an organizational or a policy approach to the problem. That's the situation.
I was going to actually put Bone on the spot, but he wrote something. So you caught my bait. Haha. Bone, I know in Uganda, Kampala, you had a friendly relationship and good communication, I believe, with your local authorities. And they are very interested in collaborating or supporting the entry of farmers market. How do you do it? Are you able to speak? Do you want to share? Okay, Bone is not able to share. It's the sometimes the connection is a problem. I think that does somebody have a I'm reading Kat. I'm surprised to see you here. You're very welcome. You're like, is it like 2 in the morning where you are? You must not be on the West Coast. Do you have anything to share with us? Hi. You are?
Actually, I'm on the
My
West
goodness.
Coast.
It's a little early.
It's a little early. I am on the West Coast.
Wow.
Our
Do you have
national
anything to
conference is coming up in 2.5 weeks. So,
goodness? Well,
yeah, so I'm
welcome.
here working, but yeah, at this hour, preferably sleeping.
For the record, it's 4:30 a.m. in where Kat is. Kat, do you have anything to share with us? I'm sure you do.
Just when you're asking about California and the authorities providing space, we have a really organized system of permits that applies to most parts of the state. It is a big state, and we're governed not only by the state, but typically by individual counties and cities. And each of those layers is a little bit different depending on where in the state you are. But typically there's a set of permits that you can apply for to use, say, to do a street closure. And that's where most farmers markets are held. There's usually a mix of farm and non-farm vendors, but there's fairly substantial fees typically that go along with creating a space and using that space week after week. But also, I think one of our biggest rising costs here is that you have to provide a lot of insurance coverage to indemnify the city or the state or both. And that's getting more and more expensive. It's pretty prohibitive for smaller markets.
So you have the permit system, but the actual barrier to entry is the cost, and that's really high.
And we honestly, the markets that I'm involved with make a net profit that goes back to the community association that we partner with in our various markets. We expect to have to make a net. So we do that, and we consider the space and the permits and the insurance and things sort of a cost of doing business for our operations. But it does continue to go up. There's no doubt about it. And especially some of the things like insurance and permits.
I also wonder, this might be not so unique to the US, but like a migrant farm workers and farms operated and really supported by the migrants, that's going to cause some disturbance. And I'm going to put Richard on the spot later to talk about, can farmers market be a safe space? Like when we talk about public safety, what does that mean? What we have going on in our community. But I'm sure if it's not migrants, I'm sure you can fill in the blank in that sentence I just said for your local specific context. John Charles, I'm gonna let you talk before we yeah, I'll stop. JC, hi.
Hello, everybody. I'm John Sharp from Lebanon. I'm lucky to run or co-run a market for the last 7 years. And we are more lucky because we are opening a new one. My saying to Tamara is, if you do not have any relation with the authorities, or say you don't have contacts or something like this, or even a canvas to deal with the relations, we in Lebanon, we are dealing for the last 7 years without any, I would say, relation, because simply of a lack of administration, local administration. There is no state administration. It's the situation of the country, but it is changing. And we will take this opportunity with the new market, to liaise with the authorities and try to jump in a future project that is talking for the first time of a farmers market in the Ministry of Agriculture, thanks to the job of CM team. And we would like to build from scratch, as much as possible, tailored to our needs, this new policy. And this is, for me, we would like to come from none to adapted regulations. And before giving the space to Richard, hi Richard, just for information, the kind of safety we would like to have for our community vendors or customer. I am forced to close or not to run the market this Sunday because of that there is unfortunately a big event, which is the Hezbollah I would say meeting event, and they even close their airspace because you don't have to have lost bullets to go over the whole city. And for your information, last Sunday I found in the yard of the school we are occupying a lost bullet on the floor. So for us, it is something that is concerning us, and we decided to close the market for this Sunday. Each country, each situation is particular to each country. Thank you.
JC, thank you so much for the sobering update. And I think that may be a cue for me to move the conversation onto something a little less tangible, less quantifiable, which is a social connection and safety. I met Richard McCarthy when he was running Market Umbrella, Crescent City Farmers Markets in New Orleans post-Katrina. So that dates us back, I don't know, 100 years, okay, 20 years, 19 years. And I saw firsthand how the farmers market was like the first thing that reopened. And that was a place where people came together to find each other, found solace in each other, and got information, got food, all of that. It's heartbreaking to see what's happening in Lebanon. And I mean, Kenya, I keep on talking about Kenya for now because I just came back from it. Kenya is a, relatively stable country, but there are refugees coming into the country from the neighboring countries. And a lot of the political stability is no longer in many places. And that goes with natural disasters. I mean, they kind of happen all at once, it seems these days. Richard, do you just want to share a little bit about how it was back then? Katrina still feels very, very raw and new to me, relevant, not new, relevant to me. Do you have anything to share that is relevant in today's conversation here and as it relates to the World Farmers Markets Coalition's mission?
I do, Robin, and thank you for steering a really complex conversation among organizations. So many of us run organizations that appear very simple, but in actual fact are very complex. And listening to everyone's story, I'm reminded of how we all have these powerful narratives that have to maneuver through a very dicey set of circumstances. And to provide some sort of context for where we landed in this situation and how we had to navigate them. The Katrina that Robin is referring to is Hurricane Katrina, which was the disaster in my life, and we all have disasters in our own lives and context, in 2005 when a giant cyclone, a hurricane, had flooded our world. And in flooding it, it took us many weeks to begin to even repopulate our community, and many years to rebuild a sense of stability, safety, normalcy. And during that process of our city of New Orleans being flooded, our 10 years by that point of developing a network in a very, unsettling political context, where the questions that many of you have already raised, which is, do we exist legally? How do we navigate through the barriers that prevent us from existing, whether that is permits or insurance, raises that interesting question of, for one, do we legally exist? Are we understood, or are we thought of as simply a mechanism for supply and demand between local food systems, local farmers and consumers? But what's often lost in that, even if we manage to negotiate some way of existing, even if the zoning and permitting process requires so many automobile spaces for consumers, what's often lost in it is the question of why we exist. And this is where Robin's first points about the larger infrastructure of us existing within a world of not stability, retreating social safety nets, but of chaos, is really the great asset that we bring to the table, because we exist in order to undermine or circumvent the chaos that seems to become increasingly normal in our lives. And in our case, in 2005, we were all, because of the Great Flood, we were all thrust away hundreds, if not thousands of miles from our home. It took us 10 weeks in order to restart the farmers markets, which seemed very long, like we were a great failure. Of course, within the context of reminding of how long it took for supermarkets to restart because of insurance systems, and larger interests of, well, why should we reopen a supermarket in a marketplace that does not have enough consumers, where there's so much disaster. They took 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, some of them never reopened, is a reminder of why we exist. We exist in order to provide the kind of social, economic, and I'd say also, certainly here within Jean-Charles' description, political stability. But this is a very difficult concept to be able to promote when we're negotiating with local authorities who simply see you as a place of commerce rather than a place that builds civil society, that builds community. And this comes back to why I first met Robin Moon, was we were trying to measure these difficult to measure social benefits. We were thrust into the idea that the farmers market actually delivers happiness, because this was when measuring happiness was not so commonplace, because we could see something was happening post-disaster, where people lost their homes, they lost loved ones, they'd lost all wealth that they had tried to accrue in all these years. in one disaster. And they found that coming to the market was a place where they restored some sense of power and safety. And the safety was, this is an institution that cares about them. This is an institution they can help to shape. And how do they know that? Because when they came to the institution, they felt safe. They could let their guard down, forget that they were fighting insurance companies, forget that they weren't sure where their livelihood was going to come from, where were they going to sleep, that the market was the welcoming embrace where they began to feel normal again. And I think it comes down to the simplicity and clarity of our actions that we saw, which is you feel normal as a consumer in particular, because you are not in the flight, fright mode of being a victim of a disaster. You are beginning to actually make little decisions in your life. You're not just receiving food in an emergency setting, a famine setting that comes in a specially prepared meal or a sack of grains. You are given the power to make decisions. I will buy tomatoes from this vendor or that vendor. And you begin to reorganize your mind around making decisions about having autonomy in your life. And this is where we began to really think about the question, not just of how do we measure these things, but how do we prepare and present our story that we are more than a market. And we began to see this narrative is that we're more than a market, we're a meeting place, we're a mentor, and we are the place where we begin to restore normalcy. And when I hear the stories already this morning, or this evening, wherever you are, I'm reminded of that powerful narrative that you all have and challenge and have the challenges to present, especially to the competent authorities that are there to allow us to operate or to set up barriers to prevent us from operating.
Thank you, Richard. Measuring things well, measuring things concretely. I mean, I have a whole degree of learning how to do that. I made a life out of that. But that is also with the assumption that only if people understand the data and see what I see, the world will change. And that was a naive thinking, and a lot of you know better than I did. It's extremely important to be able to measure, and we strongly believe that there are ways to measure social, cohesion and connection at farmers markets. And that is really one of the things we do. We want to do more, get funding to do more at the coalition. However, we have to first come together as a community. We have to convince those, Tamara, like your local authorities and the UK and then California, like they have to understand that this actually matters. Showing evidence alone does not work. And it really comes down to community and human connection. So that's the next segment, last segment that I want to bring up with you. This is just so Manuel already dropped the link, but I'm going to ask him to drop it again. So our Surgeon General of the United States, or I should say a former, sent his prescription for our country as he left his office last January. And that article, the CNN article, has a link to our Health and Human Service, our government website, and that document has been taken down. So I'm sharing what I saved from before with all of you. This is supposed to be a prescription for our health, our community, and our nation's health. And the entire document, he talks about community building and trust, service, belonging. And this is, I could have typed this myself, but this is from the last page of that document. These are really big font, so it looks like multiple pages, but it'll go really fast, I promise, if you're interested in reading. I just wanted to read this aloud and share with you. John Lewis is a very prominent civil rights leader, one of the civil rights leaders of the United States, and he was a former U.S. congressman before he passed, until he passed away in 2020. He said, "There is an old African proverb: when you pray, move your feet." As a nation, let's put in the nation the blank World Farmers Market Coalition as our coalition community. As a nation, we if we care for the beloved community, we must move our feet, our hands, our hearts, our resources to build and not to tear down, to reconcile and not to divide, to love and not to hate, to heal and not to kill. In the final analysis, we are one people, one family, one house. The American house, so, World Farmers Market Coalition house, the World Farmers Market Coalition family. I think this comes with me aging and the gaining wisdom beyond collecting data, beyond evidence, beyond achieving, goals that we have, not beyond, before, prior to doing all of that, and scaling up and all of that, we need to build trust and love. And somehow that language, what I just said, has been considered like a soft and weak and, not scientific and all of that. But we are here to do that. I just wanted to remind you of that quote. And then in the last final 10 minutes, could we maybe share any example that you might have and you might have implemented at your farmer's market, any point of your career, your life, that has brought people together and that has been successful? Dan, hi. I saw you from the beginning. I'm gonna put you on the spot. How is your retired life going? But tell us about your Detroit institution.
Well, it is a good time for that question. After 17 years, I retired in January, and looking back at the beginning when I got here, our communities are, well, we want to, I think, feature our bringing community together. Often our farmers, our communities are divided amongst themselves. There's competition as well as cooperation going on, and it doesn't, unless there's strong leadership, cooperation doesn't happen by itself. And so when I came here in 2007, Eastern Market in Detroit had two competing organizations. One represented sort of the food processors and one represented kind of the smaller brick and mortar merchants, and they hated each other's guts. And so one of the first things we had to do is and then there was a third group. There were the what we call the bridge vendors, which were people who didn't pay any fee. They just showed up and they occupied a no man's land that was administered by the state of Michigan, a pedestrian overpass that the local authority would not go on and enforce any kind of fee collection or anything like that. It was truly the Wild West frontier of early stage entrepreneurship. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that after a few years, we were able to sort of get those people all working in the same direction and got those people to agree on, sort of what we wanted to be when we grew up. And that's when really the magic started to happen. And people began to understand that our markets can be sources and places where people come together. And everybody has a place and everybody should feel welcome. I'm particularly proud that the bridge vendors, who were mostly not food, but were merchandise vendors, became a real integral part of our new Sunday market that we spawned that was different from our weekly Saturday market, which is mostly about food. So, within our communities, I think it's a concentric ring. If we're going to be these champions of one house, one community, one family, we got to start with our own organizations and build outward from there. And I think that's kind of what we were able to do in Detroit.
Thank you, Dan. And thank you for letting me put you on the spot. Happy to see you.
It's always good to see you, Robin. And even you, Richard, and all the rest of you.
Even you. Anybody else? Yes, Tamara.
I could share a simple story. We at our farmers market in Moldova, we launched a tradition that every month we run a specific campaign, and these are awareness campaigns, but they are accompanied with events at the market or outside the market. So they're not necessarily directly related to food. For example, March campaign is about clean water because it's also the World Water Day. And then April, it would be about Lent. A lot of people observe Lent before Easter. May would, vitamins. June is plastic. So we have different campaigns and they roll out year after year, the same campaign, same month. And during those campaigns, we may have a planting outing. For example, November the campaign is about planting trees. So the market customers would join market vendors on specific sites where they need trees planted. And it's kind of a subtle way of bringing in other messages than just food and eating through the market. And we don't rub them in, we just let the campaigns run. We have social media posts, we have events, we have, sometimes events outside the market. But I can't remember where I got this idea. Maybe it just appeared on its own, but it's a very nice way to go beyond the trading actions and bring the community together around a certain issue or message, whether it's plastic or water or trees or gluten or sugar or any other things.
That's what we don't have anymore in a multinational food industry. Thank you for sharing, Tamara.
I had one other
Yeah.
thought. And that is the central role that markets play in integrating refugees into communities. This goes back to the beginning of Eastern Market in 1891. Wave after wave of immigrant groups came to Detroit and found their way into the economy through the market. And most recently, we had some wonderful participation by some Ugandan farmers that started growing in Detroit. And one of the challenges in the United States is we have a retirement problem with our farmers. 65% of American farmers are retirement age or older. And when people come to this country, they're encouraged to do anything but stay in agriculture. And these Ugandan farmers were given the opportunity, and they were wickedly fantastic farmers. And the market gave them an immediate outlet to sell their products. So.
Love that. Thank you, Dan. I see the chat going on here, which is I'm so glad. Just like we as a community have a wealth of resources and shareable information. So we absolutely want to play that role as well. And I'm glad to see already immediate connections have been made on this specific issue. And there will be more. And we absolutely would like to work with you all to figure out how to measure all kinds of, hard and soft, if you will, benefits of farmers market. And building a community together. We want to do both. And it's hard to imagine where we were all separately existed pre-COVID, before the coalition came into existence. And here we are. I am not wishing for another pandemic, but in case things are not looking great sometimes I'm in a better mental space, sometimes not. But we have this, we have one another, we are already connected. And that is incredibly comforting to me, that I know all of you in 60, almost 70 countries, corners in the around the world. So I am grateful for that.
Hey, Robin,
Yeah.
what do you have if you take away the social interaction and the convening function and the civic society aspect of farmers markets? What do you have then? It's a question. And I think the answer is you have a grocery store. And so I don't know about you, but I got grandkids and I got kids, and we would never get together on a Saturday morning and go to a grocery store together. But we might, and usually do, go to the nearest market in the town we happen to be in when we get together.
Excellent point. Yes. Thank you. The kids in my life, I think that they still think that the cows come in a little styrofoam packages, and broccoli is all cut and neatly packed. So yeah, I have a hard time holding my judgment. One last minute, any last parting comment, anybody? I'm so grateful you are here. I know some of you are in some unreasonable, ungodly hours, including our cat, and Korea, Vietnam. Sarah, you unmuted yourself.
I was just going to say that I've just clocked up almost a little bit over a year in the in the farmers market space in Australia and for the Victorian Farmers Markets Association, and was talking to Tim. I honestly don't think I would have got through some of the challenges as a new person coming into the space without the WFMC. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you for that. The feelings are mutual. Okay, well, time is up. I was a little worried about how this might go. This, like I said again, this is an experiment to not have speakers. I think it was okay. And we will do this once in a while. We will also talk about practical topics and bring in speakers and teach, talk about how-tos, but we will also do this. This was like our quarterly pep rally for me. Thank you so much for being here. Be safe, be healthy, stay positive wherever you are. And let's think assets first. Peace to you all. Thank you.